Whiskers was a sleek black cat. He had bright green eyes. Whiskers was clever and careful. He liked to nap in sunny spots. Rover was a big brown dog. He had floppy ears and a wagging tail. Rover loved to play fetch. He barked at butterflies. Whiskers and Rover lived in the same house. They didn't know each other well. Whiskers liked his peace and quiet. Rover liked to play, a lot. One sunny afternoon, Rover bounded inside. He had been playing in the garden. Whiskers watched him, eyes narrowed. This could be trouble. Rover saw Whiskers watching him. He thought it was an invitation to play. Rover wagged his tail excitedly. He barked, a big booming bark. Whiskers jumped in surprise. He didn't like loud noises. He arched his back and hissed at Rover. Rover tilted his head, confused. Rover took a playful step toward Whiskers. That was it. Whiskers darted away, Rover bounding after him. The chase was on. The chase led them around the living room, over the sofa, and under the table. Finally, tired, they both plopped down, panting. They looked at each other, a new understanding in their eyes. The next day, Whiskers cautiously ventured into the garden. He saw Rover sniffing at a patch of flowers. Rover looked up and wagged his tail, but he didn't bark. Whiskers took a tentative step closer. Rover lowered himself to the ground and rolled on his back. He wanted to play. Whiskers couldn't help but be intrigued. They spent the afternoon exploring the garden together. Rover chased butterflies while Whiskers stalked grasshoppers. Sometimes they would just lie in the sun, side by side. As the days passed, Whiskers and Rover became friends. They learned to play together without scaring each other. They even started sharing their toys sometimes. One day, a flock of birds landed in the yard. They chirped and fluttered, pecking at the ground. Rover, ever the hunter, started barking excitedly. The noise startled the birds, and they flew low to the ground. One bird, smaller than the others, seemed to struggle to keep up. It chirped frantically. Rover, caught up in the excitement, started running towards the little bird. Whiskers, seeing the bird's distress, knew he had to act fast. With a burst of speed, Whiskers darted in front of Rover, distracting him. The little bird, seeing its chance, flew to the safety of a nearby tree. One crisp autumn afternoon, the air was filled with the scent of fallen leaves and the gentle rustling of the forest. The sun cast a golden hue over everything, making the woods look like a scene from a fairy tale. Whiskers and Rover, the inseparable duo, decided to explore the woods beyond their backyard. They had always been curious about what lay beyond the familiar fence. The leaves crunched under their paws as they ventured deeper and deeper into the woods. They chased squirrels, sniffed at mushrooms, and marveled at the myriad of colors that autumn had painted the forest with. Every step they took was an adventure, every sound a new discovery. They rolled in piles of leaves, their laughter echoing through the trees. The forest was their playground, and they were the kings of this leafy kingdom. They were having so much fun that they didn't notice the sun starting to set. The sky turned shades of pink and orange, signaling the end of the day. When they finally stopped playing, panting and tired, they looked around and realized something was wrong. They realized they were lost. The once familiar woods now seemed like a maze of identical trees and paths. The trees all looked the same, and the paths they had taken were now hidden under a blanket of leaves. The forest, which had been their playground, now felt like an endless labyrinth. They couldn't find their way back. Whiskers started to panic, his fur standing on end. The once brave cat now felt a wave of fear wash over him. Rover, sensing his friend's fear, licked Whiskers' ear reassuringly. He knew they had to stay calm and work together to find their way home. He barked once, a loud, clear bark, hoping someone might hear them. The sound echoed through the trees, but there was no response. Then, he started sniffing the ground, his nose to the trail. Rover was determined to find a way back, trusting his instincts and the bond he shared with Whiskers. Together, they would navigate the forest and find their way home. Back home, their human family had noticed their absence. It was unusual for Rover and Whiskers to disappear without a trace. The family had always kept a close eye on their beloved pets, ensuring they were safe and sound. But today was different. The house felt eerily quiet without the playful barks and gentle purrs that usually filled the air. They searched the house and garden, worry creasing their brows. Every nook and cranny was inspected, from the attic to the basement, but there was no sign of their furry friends. The garden, usually a place of joy and laughter, now seemed vast and empty. The family called out their names, hoping for a familiar bark or meow in response, but there was only silence. Where could their furry friends be? The empty doghouse and cat bed were stark reminders of their absence. The family began to fear the worst. Had they wandered too far? Were they lost or hurt? The questions swirled in their minds, each more troubling than the last. The little girl in the family had an idea. She remembered how Rover would always come running at the sound of his favorite treats. With a determined look, she decided to put her plan into action. She knew that if there was any chance of bringing Rover back, it would be through his stomach. She grabbed a bag of dog treats, Rover's absolute favorite. The treats were a special kind, ones that Rover could never resist. She held them up, hoping the scent would travel far and wide. The little girl felt a glimmer of hope, believing that this might just work. She knew that if Rover smelled those treats, nothing could stop him from coming home. The aroma was strong and enticing, a beacon for any hungry dog. She carefully placed a few treats on the grass, creating a trail that led towards the woods. Her heart raced with anticipation. She walked to the edge of the woods, calling out Rover's name. Her voice echoed through the trees, a mix of hope and desperation. She knew the woods could be a daunting place, but she was determined to find her friend. She called out again, louder this time, hoping Rover would hear her. She tossed a treat into the air, its scent carried by the gentle breeze. The treat landed softly on the grass, a small but significant gesture. She hoped the wind would carry the scent deep into the woods, reaching Rover's keen nose. She watched the treat, willing it to work its magic. Then she waited, hoping for the best. The minutes felt like hours as she sat by the forest edge, her eyes scanning the trees for any sign of movement. She whispered a silent prayer, hoping that Rover would come bounding out of the woods, with Whiskers close behind. Her heart was filled with a mix of hope and anxiety. Deep in the woods, Rover's ears perked up. He had been wandering aimlessly, but the familiar scent of his favorite treat caught his attention. His nose twitched as he sniffed the air, recognizing the delicious aroma. It was a scent he could never ignore. He smelled something delicious, something familiar. The scent brought back memories of happy times at home, of treats and belly rubs. Rover's heart raced as he realized what it was. He knew he had to follow the scent, no matter what. He whined, torn between following the scent and staying with Whiskers. The cat had been his companion through their adventure, and he didn't want to leave her behind, but the pull of the treat was strong. Rover looked at Whiskers, hoping she would understand. He had to make a choice, and he hoped it was the right one. As dusk settled, the wind picked up. The sky, once a serene canvas of twilight hues, began to darken ominously. The gentle rustling of leaves turned into a cacophony of whispers, signaling the arrival of a storm. Nature seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable downpour. Leaves swirled around them, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Each drop, heavy and cold, splattered against the ground, creating tiny craters in the dirt. The forest floor, once dry and firm, started to soften under the weight of the rain. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and fresh rain. Whiskers shivered, his fur slicked down by the rain. His once fluffy coat now clung to his small frame, making him look even more vulnerable. Each raindrop felt like a tiny hammer, pounding against his delicate body. He tried to shake off the water, but it was a futile effort. A low rumble of thunder echoed through the woods. It started as a distant growl, growing louder and more menacing with each passing second. The trees seemed to shiver in response, their branches swaying violently. The storm was no longer a distant threat, it was here, and it was fierce. Lightning flashed, illuminating the trees in a ghostly light. For a brief moment, the entire forest was bathed in an eerie glow, casting long, twisted shadows. The brilliance of the lightning was blinding, followed by the deafening crack of thunder that seemed to split the sky in two. Whiskers had always been afraid of storms. The loud noises, the sudden flashes of light, and the relentless rain were all too much for his sensitive nature. He felt exposed and defenseless, his heart racing with fear. Every instinct told him to find shelter, to hide from the chaos around him. He started to meow, a small, scared sound. It was a pitiful cry, barely audible over the roar of the storm. His voice trembled, reflecting the fear that gripped his heart. He hoped, desperately, that someone would hear him, that someone would come to his aid. Rover nudged Whiskers with his nose, urging him towards a large oak tree. The dog's touch was gentle but firm, a silent promise of protection. Rover had faced many storms before, and he knew the importance of finding a safe haven. He guided Whiskers with unwavering determination, his eyes filled with reassurance. He lay down next to the tree, sheltering Whiskers with his body. The oak tree, with its wide branches and thick trunk, provided a natural canopy against the rain. Rover's body was warm and solid, a comforting barrier against the cold and wet. Whiskers nestled close, feeling a sense of safety he hadn't felt moments before. He knew they had to stick together. In the face of the storm's fury, their bond was their greatest strength. Together, they could weather any tempest, no matter how fierce. The storm might rage on, but as long as they had each other, they would endure. The storm raged around them, but under the oak tree, huddled next to Rover, Whiskers felt a little braver. He wasn't alone. The relentless rain, the booming thunder, and the blinding lightning all seemed a little less terrifying with Rover by his side. In that moment, Whiskers realized the true power of friendship and loyalty. He had a friend to face the storm with, and that made all the difference. No matter how fierce the storm, no matter how dark the night, they would face it together. With Rover by his side, Whiskers knew they could conquer anything. The storm was just another challenge, and together, they were unstoppable. The scent of the treats finally reached Rover. He whined again, louder this time. He licked Whiskers' head and started running, following the delicious smell. Whiskers hesitated for a moment, then he followed. He trusted Rover to lead them home. They ran side by side, the rain slowly subsiding. They emerged from the woods, their fur wet and muddy, but they were safe. The little girl saw them and ran towards them, her face breaking into a wide smile. Rover barked happily and wagged his tail so hard that his whole body shook. He licked the little girl's face, gobbling up the treats she offered him. Whiskers and Rover were bundled up in warm towels and brought inside. They were given extra treats and lots of cuddles. They were home, safe and sound. That night, curled up together in their favorite spot by the fireplace, Whiskers and Rover knew that their friendship was something special. They had faced challenges and overcome fears together. They had started as unlikely friends, a cautious cat and a boisterous dog, but through their adventures, they had discovered the true meaning of friendship, loyalty, trust, and a whole lot of fun. They were friends forever.